Welcome to Tavern Talk. We have with us our guest today is Randy Gibson, but we also have a sponsor. Our sponsor is the Happy Feminist Bookstore, who tell the world every day there aren't many of us, and that's your fault, you patriarchal monster. All right. So we're trying to do a show about the people who have become a big part of Riley's Farm as being guests, and I don't even remember how we met.
Oh, let's see. It was quite a number of years ago, and when we came up with the kids, you had Johnny Appleseed here. We were talking with him.
So you picked apples up here? Or,
yeah. And we were talking to Johnny, and he grafted a tree for us that's enormous in our backyard today. And
how old were the kids then?
Gosh, that's got to be 12 or 14 years ago, I think. So Andrea is 28. And so she was 14, 15.
12 to maybe 15-year guests of the farm, right?
Yeah.
So let's get the brief bio. You grew up in California, born in California?
I grew up in San Diego. My wife Pam and I both grew up in San Diego.
You and I were both born before the turn of the century, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Way back then. And I was born in 57, and I went to Claremont High School in San Diego and graduated from San Diego State University, and then I went to Bethel Seminary, which was also in San Diego. They had an extension campus at the time. Now they have a permanent campus there. They're
and
from St.
Bethel
Paul.
Is what denomination?
It's Baptist General Conference.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah. It's a Swedish Baptist,
But you decided to become a Methodist preacher.
Well,
right?
I grew up in a Presbyterian church. That's where I was raised. My dad had been a Quaker, and he'd attended a little Quaker church in Spring Valley, east of San Diego. And
you grew up with the Quaker Silence then?
No. They were kind of a more modern Quaker church, I guess. And they even had a pastor, and a lot of Quaker groups don't. So, but my mom liked the Presbyterian church, so that's where they went. That's where I was raised. But I eventually became a Methodist. And
for people who are not familiar with the denominational differences, I mean, what would be the characteristics of Methodism? I mean, it goes back to Wesley,
to
right?
John Wesley, and it's
so it comes out of Anglicanism.
It's Anglicanism. John Wesley never declared himself separate from the Anglican Church. So he died an Anglican priest. But he created this revival along with George Whitefield. So you had the Calvinist and the Arminian.
So the Methodists claim Whitefield too?
They were close friends. In fact, Whitefield asked Wesley to do his funeral sermon. They were very close friends, but there were differences, but there was love there. So
what defines United Methodism?
United Methodism is different, I think, than traditional Methodism. We've become kind of a more progressive church in certain regions. In California, this conference is very progressive. Down south, they're still fairly conservative. I consider myself one of the conservatives, so sometimes I'm a little uncomfortable with the way things are, but
well, historically, what would have been Wesley's introductions, or
Wesley was Wesley believed that grace was most important. He came up with the idea of prevenient grace, a grace that follows or that comes before you're saved to prepare you to be saved, and a forecoming grace, prevenient, and it's there's
like no wine or anything like that, or
no, he liked wine. It was later that came along. Yeah, Welch's grape juice.
Well, in Methodism, there really never was a kind of a temperance strain, was there? In the South,
big time.
Maybe,
Big time.
Really?
Yeah, the temperance came along, and boy, it was big. And so, up until just recently, Methodist pastors had to take a pledge not to drink.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
And not to gamble.
Now,
not to go into debt.
Did you preach with a collar? Did you have a collar or robes when you?
I wore a academic robe.
Right.
But I preferred the kind of an an alb, they call it. It's just a plain white robe.
But you're going around town and you're an active, duty pastor. Did you wear the collar? Or?
Only when I went to the hospital. When you're at the hospital and you're wearing the collar, you avoid a lot of difficulty with people saying, "What are you here? It's not visiting hours," that sort of thing.
Right.
It also means that people that are there in the hospital will say to you, "Hey, can I ask you into the room? My father or my uncle or my mother, she needs to talk to a pastor, and our pastor hasn't been by." So,
when did you know? I mean, you described yourself as a believer fairly early on.
Oh, very.
Life, right? But when did you know you wanted to be a pastor?
I was 7 years old.
7 years old? And
7 years old. Yeah.
And you knew not only you were a believer, but you wanted to be a pastor.
Yeah, I remember accepting Christ when I was kindergarten, Sunday school. And when I was 7 years old, I was telling my friends and my Sunday school teachers, my family, I'm going to be a pastor.
Did you have any, picture of a pastor in your life that inspired you, or was it just it was like more just from God?
It was more from God because I didn't really, I wasn't especially close to the pastor. I knew what he did, but I just wasn't, yeah.
You're one of those people that just never had any doubt about what their vocation was going to be.
Right. My mother, when I was in high school, said, "You don't want to be a pastor."
Why did she say that?
She just says, "You don't want to be a pastor. It's really hard job, and it's hard on your family, and you don't want to be a pastor. You want to be a dentist." And I said, "I want to be a dentist." And then she said, "Yeah, because if you're a dentist, you can preach to people and they can't talk back." And so I said, "Really?" And she had the family dentist working on me. So I went off to college at UCSD to be a dentist, and I hated my life for 2 quarters. That's when
It's too bad Nancy Pelosi didn't go to dentistry.
That's right.
And now, when we come back, though, we're going to talk about some startling stuff in your counseling life. You don't know about this yet, but right when we come back on Tavern Talk.